the elements that constitute the cost of manufacture are termed as the elements of cost. The cost can be classified into variable cost and overhead cost. So coming to the variable cost, so here the variable costs are purely depends upon company's production volume. So that is the production output. Okay. So in a manufacturing concern, the raw materials are converted into a finished product with the help of material, labor, and expense. So which means the variable cost increases or decreases depending on the company's production volume only. So they rise as the production increases and they even fall as the production decreases. So I hope now it is clear that the variable cost is purely dependent on the production volume, right? So for an instance, you can say, let's assume a tea purveyor sells a cup of tea for the cost of rupees 10. So here, where they include the cost of sugar, milk, tea, and the direct labor cost. So the tea cost is depends upon the cost of the ingredients which is used in the tea. So ingredients means the sugar, milk, tea, and all those things, and the direct labor cost as well. So here the direct labor cost means like the one who's making a cup of tea, you can say. Yeah. So the variable cost can be further classified into direct material cost and direct labor cost and direct expenses. So here coming to the direct material cost. So direct material cost are the cost of material used to produce the product. So here considering the previous instance of the tea purveyor, so here sugar, milk, tea are the direct material cost, right? And if you say, if you consider the direct labor cost, then it is the amount of wages paid to the direct labor. So that is amount or a salary, so which is paid to the direct labor, so involved in the production activities. So again, coming to the tea purveyor instance, so the person who makes the tea is the direct labor cost here, right? So the direct labor cost is the amount of wages paid to the direct labor involved in the production activity, right? So coming to the direct expense, so here in direct expense, a product cannot be produced without incurring such expenses, right? So direct expenses are those expense that vary in relation to the production volume other than the direct material cost and the direct labor cost, right? So already we saw what are the direct material cost and direct labor cost. So here we have an instance for an direct expense. So here if you say, so yeah, as we said already that it should be like other than direct labor and direct material. So that would be like a paper cup. If you consider your tea purveyor example, then a paper cup, or else that utensils which is used to make a tea, and the gas, fuel, and a stove or a burner, so used to make the tea. So all these things will comes under the direct expenses. So here you cannot consider the rent, tax, EB bills, insurance, repair and maintenance, and other office expenses or any miscellaneous expenses, as they are indirect expense, right? So you can't consider in direct expense. So here I hope you all know about what is a variable cost exactly after hearing this session. And now let us see about the overhead cost. So here overhead cost is the aggregate of indirect material cost, indirect labor cost, and indirect expense. So here indirect material cost is the material required to produce a product, but not directly, and do not form a part of a finished product. So, right. So, here, for an instance, again, use of fuel or a gas, yeah, are important to make a tea, right? But it is not directly associated with the finished product. And also, the cost of indirect material is not varying in the direct proportion of the product. And indirect labor cost. So, here it is the amount paid to the workers who are indirectly engaged in the production of the goods. So, it doesn't mean that they should directly involve in the output, but here you can say like cleaning wages, so to wash the utensils or housekeeper, office staffs. So all those are the examples for indirect labor cost. And indirect expense is that incurred the expense that are incurred by organization to produce a product. So here, for an instance, we have tax and auditor's fee, discount. So if you have a vehicle, then that is maintenance charges for the vehicle, and then fuel for it, and insurance, company license fee, and so on. So all these things again will comes under indirect expenses. And now we have a administration overhead. So here the administration overhead is also called as an office overhead. So here again, it is something like incurred in connection with the general administration of the company. So here, for an instance, you can say like a salary of administrative staffs, postage, or if you use a telegram, telephone, or even the stationary items which you're using. So all those things will comes under this administration overhead, right? And next we have a selling overhead. So here the selling overhead is the expenses incurred in connection with sales. So say for an instance, so here salary of sales department staffs, and then the travelers commissions, advertisement, and all those things will comes under sales. So whatever you're going to do with the sales, so that will be completely accommodated in the selling overhead. So next we have distribution overhead. So distribution overhead is just the expenses incurred in the connection with the delivery or distribution of goods and services from the producer to the consumer. So say for an instance, so here the delivery van and its expenses, and you can say like a loading and unloading, and customs duty, salary for the delivery man, and all those things will comes under distribution overhead. Yes. And now we have the selling price of a product could be derived as shown here. So you can see like a direct material cost and direct labor cost and direct expenses. So all these three together makes the prime cost, right? And prime cost and factory overhead would be factory cost, and the factory cost plus office and administrative overhead would make you cost of production. And here the cost of production and opening finished stock minus closing finished stock would be cost of goods sold. And next we have cost of goods sold plus selling and distribution overhead, and that would make cost of sales. And here cost of sales and profit would make you sales. Sales or quality sold would be selling price per unit. So here you can say If the opening finished stock and the closing finished stock, or if both equals the same, then the cost of production is equal to the cost of goods sold.